So I've been deliberately trying to not antagonize anyone, but I'm afraid in this video I'm going to seriously upset my enemies to the point where poor old Starmer is going to have a very bad week from all the crazies driven mad by this video, ringing him up and demanding something be done about me. So here we've got a 6 hour, 13 minute and 34-second CIA program from the Sean Ryan show, another CIA operative and America's premier remote viewer, Joe McMonigal, who has been proven to be 30% effective. I prefer myself 100% effective, but you know. Anyway, Project Stargate was run by the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. They got the CIA running it as the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the aim was all explained by this chappie. Here we've got another one. Physicists unmasked the Pentagon's most disturbing, all to do with the Stargate project, and there's David Morehouse. Looks like an old git. But in his book, he said that they were all working on remote influencing, which is the ability to influence the target, and something called remote manipulation, which is remotely influencing the target so that they kick the bucket. So this whole video is about remote manipulation and how to do it on all of my Western targets. So I'm completing the Project Stargate, and as Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un, that great man, can attest, this remote manipulation, which is making people so unwell they kick the bucket, was used on all three of them, and if it wasn't for me, all three of them would be dead and not running around spry. So you can see it's horrific technology, and the American filth made it super black when they officially ended the Stargate project in '97. They didn't. They simply made it super black, and anyone who talked about it got carted off to the loony bin, like David Morehouse, who was then medicated with the gazoo, like Kanye West, because of course he upset the Jews. And we know that Harvey Pasternak, the mind control operative for the Hollywood Jews, because he's a Jew himself, and his father was deeply involved with the CIA on MK Ultra. You can watch all about this horrible thing that threatened to put Kanye in the loony bin again, and so medicate him that he'd be in La La Land forever, rather like Konstantin Ivanenko, who was carted off by the KGB, thrown in one of their psychiatric prisons, and fed so many antipsychotics that his brain shrunk. So he used to be a computer mathematician, and he informed me when he was released he couldn't do any maths because he had severe traumatic brain damage. Anyway, back to the point. If you want to read about the Stargate project, you can get David Moyes' book, which is his story. It's got no content, it won't teach you anything. It just talks about him being thrown in the loony bin when he started talking about remote manipulation, and he was against it, and he was the first one to publicly coin microscopic remote viewing. And you can see the Stargate project with all the AIs is simply the deep state's use of operatives who are chipped to the gazoo and connected to computers, wirelessly now, of course, thanks to Neuralink, which of course was, we have Musk just releasing it for the deep state. They've had it for decades. Musk, of course, is just an operative of the Rothschilds, and their puppet does exactly what they want, and exactly what I want, which is producing the Cobalt-60 bombs that wipe out America. So if you wonder, just as an aside, why the American filth haven't attacked Iran, why the head of the NSA and his deputy were fired, it's all because of me, and me revealing to the American filth that they want to be wiped out by Cobalt-60 when they attacked Iran. So as you can see, the craven American scum cancelled the attack on Iran, which they'd agreed to with the Israelis. So me and the Israelis, we're very disappointed. Very disappointed. But nevertheless, you can see the power of the cyborg. I change history, and whatever I want to happen, happened in this case. It's pretty obvious, since America's not covered in Cobalt-60, we're getting the little princess. Just got to work out who is going to be the little princess's mother, and of course Lucifer's mother. Anyway, aside, we go back to the main subject, which is Project Stargate, and we're going to look into remote manipulation. How do you do it? So you want to remotely manipulate, get the target to kick the bucket, and here we've got more disinformation. There's no manual. Well, as I say, a CIA chappie that came to see me way back in '97 gave me the hypnotic remote viewing manual, which they use. He said everything they teach in the courses is only stuff that can be blocked by the CIA. They don't teach any Americans or anyone else remotely viewing that could possibly look at any location protected by the CIA. All the remote viewing and remote influencing courses now, as if they're going to teach people remote influencing so they could harm the Rothschild Rockefeller royal family. I don't think so, cameraman, do you?
Not at all.
Not at all. So these are just trawling operations to find psychics who can then be chipped up and wirelessly linked to the cyber Satan and all the rest of that, and of course constantly tortured with microwaves and poison, etc., to get them into a constant state of alterhood. So anyone who's one of their surrogate wetware to be used for remote viewing by cyber Satan, their quantum AI shit, is also fried with microwaves and poisoned and to get them into the altered state, so they're MK Ultras, so they're tortured while they're operating for the American deep state. So I would recommend highly that you never take any American remote viewing course or remote influencing course, because you're opening yourself up to then being tortured and if you haven't been kill-shotted, chipped up and acting as surrogate wetware for remote viewing. Now, if you want to know how to do remote manipulation, first we learn remote viewing, all available from Mike. You can get the courses course from Mike, and someone can correct all the spelling, whatever, and send him back the scan it, send it back to Mike again. And once you've learned remote viewing, which is the ability to project your quantum field to a distant location, then of course we go into remote sensing, which is merging your quantum field with the quantum field of someone you're remotely viewing, be it President Trump or the head of the Joint Chiefs, or the head of the CIA, or the head of the DIA, or the new head of the NSA, and then you can simply use quantum entanglement to learn all the secrets they hold in their quantum field. So that's how mind reading works. And if you want to do remote sensing and find out any secret from the target, first get a remote viewing course, and second get the remote sensing course. Available from Mike again. Discounted for vampires. Now, we want to go to Project Stargate, remote manipulation. That is not remotely sensing the person, but remotely influencing the person to the point of remote manipulation where they kick the buckets. So, one can see there's a guided meditation for remote viewing. You can see now they block remote viewing because if they, as the American administration admitted last week, they can manipulate time and space. They simply need quantum perturbation generators in the facility, and A, they can repel your quantum field, or B, they can catch your quantum field. Ooh, remote viewing traps. He taught 33,000 people remote viewing. I wonder why the Kremlin or Beijing aren't trembling, because they know that these remote viewers can be blocked, and if the CIA can block all of this American remote viewing course, then so can the Kremlin and Beijing. But here's the book where he describes what the DIA were doing, and we know from the effects on the leaders of America's enemies that this remote manipulation worked very, very well until I came along and said, no, 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 no. So let's get set. So say you want to do remote viewing, remote sensing, but you want to do it quickly. We know with Ivanova that you can actually heal by sucking out torsionics, scadionics and leptionics from the target. And of course you've got the link for your quantum perturbations. So, the quick and easy way is to suck out life force from the target you're about to remotely influence and remotely manipulate. And as you're sucking out, you then want to unload something into them to cause remote influencing, which is something you want to happen to the target, or you want to drive them mad, or you want to give them a blood clot in the brain, and of course for that you can, while you're watching that, simultaneously have the blood clot program. So let's look at the target. There he is, Elon Musk. As I say, well, Tim, why haven't you put him in a day? No, because I'm playing with him like a cat plays with a mouse. Why? Because I'm a sadistic bastard. And that's why the only form of sex for me is BDSM. I love that. Everything else, not interested. So you can see he's my torture toy. And of course, vampires, you can practice your remote manipulation on Elon. How can I do that? Well, first of all, heal yourself, sucking him dry from the screen. You've got the link via Ivana. Next, we go to the template. So, simultaneously, when you're healing yourself, you can upload. Remember, you have got more than one device, have you not? You can be uploading the Ivanova or anti-Ivanova energy for blood clotting Elon Musk's brain. How? All the energy, the audience, and the Borg, and you've got the template supplied to you, thankfully, by the Hollywood Jews. There we go.
I can't control. I don't understand anything that's happening to me. Building the life I thought I wanted. But there's something inside of me. Something that I can't explain. And I'm afraid.
Now it's inside of me and I'm using on Elon. So, you can upload via Ivanova and then, again, go back to the torture toy, Elon Musk. So while you're healing yourself, you're then using what you uploaded from the Mayfair Witches and you stick it into his head. And you can pick up other templates of all manner of horrible things happening to people. From Babylon 5, where you've got the Psychor using their ability to kill people. There's one episode where a rogue telepath goes around killing people, so you can upload from the requisite parts of Babylon 5, all available on Amazon. We know we've got all of these Project Stargate operators, and what you can do is simply suck out all the life force from anyone you observe trying to protect Elon Musk or Trump or Hegseth or the rest of the vermin, and they'll be trying to put some light bubble around him, the golden shield. Where do you go to the golden shield? And you simply suck them dry, and now you've got the template for installing your own intradimensional dark matter sequestration, as the mud shadows do on you. And from Babylon 5, you've got all the tech in the telepaths, and you're simply using Ivanova, suck it out, and then as you're sucking dry the people who are trying to protect the Americans, you shove into their brains the sequestration, which the shadows did all the hardware. This in fact is psychicware, psiware, or psychotronic crystalware, and shove it into not only the brains of those trying to protect the Americans, but also you can shove it into the American administration too, because then of course you've got all of this control where inside them for remotely influencing them and having them as your remote controlled torture toy. Then you go back to the target. There he is. Sucking them dry and downloading all of that spyware, psychotronic crystalware, into the torture toy. All done. It's much more interesting, is it not? And you're into the remote sensing state, which is shutting down your internal dialogue simply by looking at the target. So, once you've done that, every time you observe Musk on your TV, phone or tablet or computer, then of course you're making yourself healthier and reinstalling the slaveware to make him your remotely influenced Obot, and of course downloading the quantum perturbation to give them a blood clot in the brain, or a heart attack, or any other psychic weapon system you found on the internet. So this is remote influencing, remote manipulation for beginners. Now remember, you're just matrix information and you're made real via the Nagual man who links up with the light, and the Nagual woman who then brings reality to the matrix filth, which are all of you. And the Americans had the advantage of having Taylor, who was a Nagual woman until she was balefire. Now she's just information to load Becky. So their manipulation of space and time, the ability to use Kozyrev time density, the ability to be the cause of death of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and hijacking their entire lives, all depended upon Taylor Swift, the Nagual woman, and of course the Nagual man, who was linked to the Nagual woman, which of course was yours truly. I, of course, have been letting them have enough rope to hang themselves, and then that's all raised. And using the three-load Nagual woman, Katy Perry, who only brings death and destruction to her line, which of course is the West and the Jews and the royal family, as the Nagual woman for the Total War Service. So you can see why they tried to launch her into space and tried to get the little Jew Sowlet, Daisy Dove, to try and erase me, which of course was a forlorn hope. And you can see now the disaster it's been for her career, and everyone taking the urine out of her, and all of the people in the know knowing it was just CGI, like of course the space missions to the moon. Now, with the Americans no longer having a Nagual woman, they are simply matrix filth, and I take away what information I like, add the information I like. How do you do that, Tim? Well, just observing. I take away the information of Elon Musk. I don't like, and add the information to Elon Musk? I do like it. And then make it real. How do you make it real? By adding Higgs field. Yeah, but I haven't got a nag. Well, I use Katy Perry, don't I? Because Katy Perry is perfect for only one thing, which is killing, destroying everything in the West and the leadership of the West. Hence, how did Charles get cancer? From Katy Perry. How did Middleton kick the bucket and we got the Middleton copy? Katy Perry. How come we had the Duke of Kent's son-in-law blowing his brains out? Because he had an affair with Middleton. Katy Perry. How come America and the West are basket cases? Katy Perry. Anything bad that's happening to the West, I'm using Katy Perry to, as the three-lobe Nagual woman, manifest it. And of course, what's so good about three-lobe Nagual woman is if the Americans try to use her like in Blue Horizon CGI, all they're doing is simply feeding the Nagual woman so I can more effectively use it to destroy the West and all the Westerners. Isn't that good, cameraman?
It is.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go to the only Nagual woman left standing, this one. Definitely not pro-Israeli.
Controversial, but some statements she's made over the past few years about Israel have been. She's called the current war in Gaza genocide, and in 2021, a well-known rabbi took out this full-page ad in the New York Times criticizing her.
There was a lot of words kind of thrown at me, things that I don't believe.
So, why is she still standing? Well, she's a Muslim, and it doesn't matter what the parasite in her brain talks about. Her monster of the id from Forbidden Planet, the consciousness that collapses the quantum field, the essence, hates what the Jews are doing to the Gazans. And of course she comes from Kosovo, where the Serbs were killing her lot, and of course the Albanians in retaliation used thousands of Serbs for body parts as they vivisected them. So you can, and she's been calling for greater greater Albania. So whatever the facade, the real Jew is super militant and super aggressive. So for you vampires and all you Muslims, that's why you might wonder why did you and how did you enable Vladimir Putin's Chechens via her? Remember, you need an Nagual woman to download the ability to make real or not make real anything you damn well please. The realness coming from the Nagual man and the implementation of it coming from the Nagual woman. Hence the group are matrix and made real, and they can go into the five-dimensional Riemann manifold by burning with the fire from within, becoming light. How can they do that? Because they're just simply matrix filtered. Yes, they are. But the light comes from the Nagual man and is fed into this matrix filth, like my cameraman, by the Nagual woman. And this one can't be used by the Western filth because she hates them. Her monster of the id simply hates them, which is a bit of bad luck. Intent's got a real sense of humour here. But of course the Chechens can use her to gain the light or take away the light from all of the NATO targets. So the Russians can use the Chechens for full-scale Project Stargate remote manipulation on the same level and scale as the Americans used Taylor Swift. And of course Vladimir Putin knows you almost died from remote manipulation, so now he can get Chechen operators to target all the NATO filth, Starmer, Macron, the new German Chancellor, NATO generals, American filth, anyone they fancy. Even, the commander-in-chief, up to the Russians. But you can see this really is bad news, having a Muslim Nagual woman who hates the Israelis and supports the Gazans. And of course has had Rabbi Shmuley and the rest of the Hollywood Jews attacking her with Bella and Gigi. Getting up her gander. She's well gandered, correct cameraman. Anyway, the really bad news though is that she doesn't regard Shias as only good for a head lopping, Islamic haircut. That's it. Islamic haircut. Which is I would be the heavy duty end of the spectrum in that regard, but she doesn't. So the Iranians can use this Nagual woman because she's linked to me, because she's the Nagual woman, and I can, unless I balefire her, the Iranians can now use the level of remote manipulation the Americans had with Taylor Swift to target anyone they fancy. And we know they've been targeting Donald Trump with their pinpricks, but once they start pulling the light out of her and using the light to pull out the light from those bits of Trump and the American filth like Hegseth they don't like, the information they don't like them, for example, living. So this would be a disaster, but Intent has got a macabre sense of humour and has made 100% effective with the Death Force. So she is the ultimate Nagual woman to empower remote manipulation. How's that, Tim? Well, even I was shocked by this. She's already done the sacrifice to gain the 100% Death Force. So all remote manipulation using Dua is 100% effective and 100% lethal. Oh my goodness. So you Iranians, please don't use this, because if you did, you'd be able to slaughter President Trump like a dog. So how did she get this Death Force? So here's her with Pop Smoke, and in a video, I'll play it. So this is the one to upload all the dual energy for remote manipulation. But I was shocked to find his horrific death.
Smoke's murder, sentenced to nearly 30 years in prison. 24-year-old Corey Walker pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter earlier this month. Pop Smoke, whose real name is Bashar Jackson, was killed during a 2020 home invasion in the Hollywood Hills. Walker admitted to planning the home invasion, but says he didn't pull the trigger. The shooter was a teen who admitted to murder in juvenile court.
Next question.
Can't talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Even if you wasn't the trigger man, I feel like, because a lot of people were saying it was a robbery gone wrong. No one was intended to get hurt that night?
Nobody's intended to get hurt. Nobody. I just feel like, I don't know, we was just kids. Being kids from the hood. And too much movement. Too much going on. Too much shit going on.
2020, at about 4:30 a.m., Pop Smoke was shot and killed inside of his Airbnb. He wasn't alone, but at the time of the robbery, he was inside the shower. 4 teenagers would storm the house that night before the youngest, a 15-year-old, would fatally shoot him. Pop Smoke was just 20 years old at the time. He was officially pronounced dead at 5:12 that morning, but it would end up taking months to fully solve this case. TMZ reported his death at 1:24 p.m. on February 19th. If we look back at his last post on Instagram, we can see exactly how his day played out.
Let's see what you got here. It better be about smoke. Don't fuck around.
It all started with this post around 11 a.m. on February 18th, just 16 hours before his death. He landed in California and drove to his Airbnb in Beverly Hills, where he posted it on his story, showing off the backyard. He was going to be in Los Angeles for a 4-day vacation. With him was his longtime friend Mike D, and after the two got comfortable, he updated his story with the next post of him getting his hair cut. This was followed with a picture of him relaxing by the pool before getting ready to go shopping that evening. In the top left, a tag showing Beverly Hills. So far, the day was playing out normal, and nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. However, the very next post would change the events of that night. That post actually comes from Mike D. Around 4 p.m., a series of pictures were uploaded on both their accounts. On Pop Smoke's Instagram showed 3 back-to-back pictures of him and Mike together, with Mike holding a stack of cash. On Mike's page was another photo, and nothing seemed wrong with it at first, but this picture had 2 fatal problems. The picture was of Pop Smoke and Mike, with him holding the same stack of money, but in the top left corner, the entire home address is almost visible, with only the first number missing. If someone were to be looking for Pop Smoke, all they had to do was find the first number between 1 and 9. But the worst mistake would come after Mike geotagged the post, showing the location on Instagram Maps. This was something they simply couldn't afford to do. An average person can get away with this, but for a high-profile rapper holding wads of cash, this was unacceptable. Despite these posts, the afternoon would carry on seemingly normal, but a few keen eyes had already begun connecting the dots. At 5 p.m., another update to Pop Smoke's story would be added. This one showed him driving once again with the same stack of cash and a diamond-studded Rolex on his wrist. Now there was a location and a motive, and for them, that was enough. For a few hours, Pop Smoke didn't update any posts, but we know he was out shopping. Shortly after taking the photos in the driveway, Mike and Pop got into the white Range Rover and drove from the Airbnb down Santa Monica Boulevard before stopping at the Amiri store. Pop Smoke was getting ready for his Meet the Woo tour starting in March and was taking his last week on vacation. His Meet the Woo 2 tape had just dropped weeks prior, and he was still celebrating its success, so it was only normal for him to go shopping and reward himself. After all, he was in Beverly Hills, a place known for its luxurious shopping. Just 7 hours before his death, at 10 p.m., he returned back to the Airbnb and updated his story again, this time with a view of the city at night from the backyard. But his stay was short. He still wanted to record new music that night. At 11 p.m., Pop Smoke would upload a seemingly harmless video, showing some of the shopping he had done earlier that day. Unfortunately, this post would be the third and final mistake. The 3 Amiri bags shown in the video would leak sensitive information. The tags on them revealed the Airbnb's full address, and now he was completely vulnerable. A talent manager at his label spotted the error and asked him to take the post down. But what Pop Smoke didn't know was that 2 teenagers had already been keeping an eye on his stories. The 2 men who were taking notice were from the well-known Hoover gang in LA. They took note that Pop Smoke was close by, only about 20 minutes away. Their cell phone records show that around midnight they began looking at the address on maps and scouting out the location. They decided they would make a move that night. At 1 a.m., Pop and Mike left to record at East West Studios near Sunset Boulevard, just a few miles away. While he was working on new music, the 2 teens were working on their plan. According to the Los Angeles Times, at 2 a.m., a black BMW would show up on surveillance outside the home. The car rolled past the house and circled back before stopping. It showed a passenger getting out and sneaking toward the back of the house before quickly returning to the car. At the time, too many people were in the home, and Pop wasn't even there. The car then sped off, heading back to where they came from, where they recruited 2 more teens to help in the robbery. The hills were only about 20 minutes away from South LA, so they all decided to switch cars and try returning later. Around 3 a.m., Pop left East West Studios. He got in the Range Rover with Mike and a woman he met that night named Amelia Rose. They would then drive back, unknowing of the events about to take place. Pop and Amelia went upstairs to the master bedroom and Mike to a room down the hall. Around the same time, the 4 teens had already swapped cars to an Infiniti sedan and began looking up the address on Zillow. Through pictures, they now had a better understanding of the home's layout and the location of the master bedroom Pop would most likely be staying in. Pop, who was now in bed with Amelia, got ready to end his night with a shower. His last activity on social media were these Twitter replies to a few fans. About 20 minutes passed and the Infiniti would pull up, lights off. They snuck through the backyard and climbed up the balcony to the 2nd floor. Amelia was the first one to notice the movement outside, but before she could react, the house was stormed by 3 men with masks and guns out. They put a gun to her head and advised her to stay quiet, taking her phone and purse while the other 2 went to the bathroom to confront Pop Smoke. They told Pop to take off his watch and hand it over, to which he did. But then Pop lunged at the gunman and attempted to fight back when he was shot in the chest by a 15-year-old. Amelia screamed as Pop hit the floor and the 2 men kicked him repeatedly. In a final attempt to escape, Pop got up and ran toward the stairs where he was shot 2 more times in the back. The 3 men then stormed out of the house. Mike was woken up by gunshots ringing through the halls, to which he found Pop at the bottom of the stairs and immediately called 911.
Hello? Hello? I'm a child waiting for LAPD.
Medical arrived 20 minutes later and took him to Cedars-Sinai, where he passed away just 1 hour later. At the same time of his passing, his killers were already searching up the local news to see if they had reported it yet. They even looked up the price of Pop's stolen Rolex, the only item they made it out the house with. In total, they got just $2,000 for it, split between 4 people. Despite having cell phone and internet records, authorities didn't have hard evidence to make arrests for almost 3 months. It wasn't until the 15-year-old was arrested for an unrelated crime. But because police already had their eyes on him as a person of interest, they rigged his jail cell with recording devices. Eventually, he told his cellmate he'd taken part in robbing Pop Smoke and that he pulled the trigger killing the rapper. The driver of the vehicle was arrested as well and eventually told his cellmate the same details of that night, confirming the story, initially having no intentions of shooting him, but when Pop put up a fight, they panicked and shot him. Corey Walker was the 19-year-old who stayed in the car that night, and Keandre Rogers was the 18-year-old who led the charge into the house. They were both charged with murder with special circumstances and will remain in prison indefinitely. The 17 and 15-year-old were charged as juveniles for murder and robbery, and they remain unnamed to this day due to being minors. Pop Smoke was tragically taken too soon before he had the chance to grow to become the face of the drill movement. The tragedy of Pop Smoke's death lies in the fact that we can see his last day with us through his posts, but these are the same posts that would get him killed. Fans would express their hurt for the death of Bashar, and to this day, over 2 years since his passing, his music is still loved and being discovered by people every day. Rest in peace to the Wu.
If the Nagual woman transmits the light of reality to Matrix filth, then of course we can reverse it, can we not? She can suck out the light and only leave the information of the Matrix filth being dead. Rather like, well, exactly like this, just like the Final Destination film. So, anyone who's remotely manipulated with this method is in the Tim Refat produced, Tim Refat written, Tim Refat directed, Tim Refat sole ownership of, and Tim Refat getting all the profits with his due a destination film. So anyone you remotely manipulate can also, you don't want to get fixated on giving them heart attacks or cancer or aneurysms. You can also, using, once you have the Nagual woman, you can change their information, be the cause of their death, which of course is the Nagual man, Nagual woman, so that it doesn't work for anyone not on my list, but anyone on my list, which is enormous, basically the entire Western population and all their affiliates, their entire life has been controlled by me. I'm the cause of death. That's not even including the Borg. We're not talking about the Borg. So as you can see, we now want to quantum entangle Dewar and the horrific death of a pop star. That's why we showed you the whole Pop Smoke video, so you understood how insanely nasty it was. Now it fits in with you are destined to death, and death is coming after you, and death gets you.